When you immerse yourself into the world of the occult, it won't be long before you're introduced to the idea of spirituality as a forking of paths, with two very popular modes of thought, the so-called right and left-hand paths. Hi, welcome to Cipher Grove, the channel where we dive deep into the profound esoteric mysteries of spirituality, religion, metaphysics, and the occult. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. That said, please enjoy the video. Almost immediately when I began studying spirituality, I was met by this idea that there existed two schools of thought, and it took a while to understand what they were both about. In the beginning, I was strictly cautioned by many practitioners and books I read to stay far, far away from the left-hand path. That the perspective of light and divine oneness was the only viable pursuit of spirituality, that one could only approach spirituality from a perspective of love. Of course, while I agree that the spirits of love, wisdom, freedom, and justice should be wholly entwined at the heart of everyone's practice, I learned later that love looks differently for many people, and it cannot be defined and packaged under a certain set of doctrines or practices. I came to the world of the occult to learn forbidden knowledge, and to find within it a community of people who still themselves forbade a certain type of knowledge seemed to defeat the point. And so I naturally yearned for whatever this left-hand path was. The left-hand path is typically associated with black magic, or the more unnatural and evil side of occultism, whereas the right-hand path is more associated with your typical ideas of white magic and love and light. But truly, these terms don't mean either of those things. These are complete misconceptions. These terms come from the ancient Eastern Tantric tradition. In its original Tantric context, the term right-hand path refers to a spiritual path that adheres to social norms and an established cultural code. This can include pursuing religion or spirituality in the form of adhering to a certain structural moral code or appealing to the gods or divine beings that the society at large follows. The left-hand path is the opposite. It rejects this. The left-hand path is the idea of challenging these social norms, engaging in societal taboos as a very visceral path towards spirit. In its original tantric context, the left-hand path practitioners engaged in things that were considered taboo for their culture and the mainstream religions, and this included eating meat, drinking alcohol, involving sex in rituals, and even assembling in graveyards. And it wasn't until Madame Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society brought the terms back with her from her Eastern travels that they became stand-ins for white and black magic within Western occultism. Essentially, the left-hand path is the embracing of taboo as a method of pursuing spirituality. And so, in every society, there is a different version of the left-hand path. One could say, in fact, there are many left-hand paths, just as there are many right-hand paths. For every culture that exists, there are both norms and taboos. Those who follow the left-hand path seek liberation and freedom from the shackles of the common man's dogmas and attitudes towards what defines a man's sacred search of spirit. And at the heart of the matter, those LHP practitioners seek their truth and their gnosis by embodying the rejection of someone else's truth that has been imposed on them. Now, as it happens in our Western world, the Abrahamic religions have dominated civilization, the largest and most powerful of these being Christianity, imposing upon society its version of the truth all over the world. So in the Western world, the left-hand path usually manifests in the guise of Satanism, using the very enemies of these dogma-spreading religions as pathways in which to achieve the truths that they are being denied by these institutions. For some, Satan is seen as a symbol of self-expression in this sense, an emblem of rejecting the larger religions and spiritual paths. But for just as many others, Satan, Lucifer, Iblis, or other demonic or anti-Abrahamic figures are viable gods and spirits worth dealing with and pursuing for their unconventional truths. It is not so much unlike the concept of the forbidden fruit, which the curious Eve longed to taste. The left-hand practitioner thirsts for that which lies shrouded in darkness, forgotten and shunned by the light. Are there, of course, actual sources of true evil, violence, and negativity within the left-hand path? Of course. Just as there are these same things that play out within the right-hand path. Someone committing a murder or act of genocide in the name of Satan is not that much different than doing so in the name of God, in my opinion. But since one of them strays further from the societal norm, it is noticed more. But both are abhorrent and absolutely wrong. And as I said in the beginning, the spirits of love, wisdom, freedom, and justice should be at the very heart of your path. Otherwise, what's the point? I myself fall within the left-hand path tradition, and while my beliefs are beyond the scope of this video, it should be stated outright. People who follow this path are often just as loving and good-natured as those who follow the opposite, and we should not confuse a few crazed exceptions to this for the entirety of the path, just as those who follow the right-hand path would not want us to confuse the acts of their own crazed and genocidal exceptions for the entirety of their path. And so, in conclusion, practice magic along the path that you see as the most enriching for your life, and do not be afraid of going against the tide. Find spirit in the way which your heart most desires. My name is Dorian, and this is Cypher Grove.